My dad screamed, "You do nothing for this family. Get out." So I grabbed my keys and left. 8 days later, my sister reached out panicking. "Why is the power off?" I just messaged, "Thought I did nothing." Then came the voicemail. I, 32M, never thought I'd be writing this, but here we are. My dad screamed at me to get out of his house last week, telling me I do nothing for the family. So I did exactly what he asked. What happened next showed me just how much I actually did. Let me back up. I've been living in the family home for the past 3 years, helping take care of things after Mom passed. Dad's 68 and has diabetes. My sister is 29 and works part-time at a boutique, and my younger brother is 25 and unemployed. I work in IT consulting, making decent money, and I've been covering most of the household expenses without making a big deal about it. The house is old, built in the 1970s, and constantly needs repairs. The electrical system is temperamental, the plumbing acts up monthly, and the HVAC system requires regular maintenance. I handle all of this stuff because I'm handy and it saves the family thousands in repair costs. Plus, I pay for the utilities, grocery shopping, and most of the household necessities. Dad has always been proud, the type who hates admitting he needs help. Since Mom died, he's become more stubborn and bitter. He sits in his recliner most days, watching TV and complaining about everything. My sister enables him, always taking his side, and my brother just exists in his room playing video games. The explosion happened last Tuesday evening. I came home from a long day dealing with a client's network security breach. I was exhausted and just wanted to grab dinner and decompress. I walked into the kitchen to find Dad yelling at my sister about something trivial. She was crying, and he was red-faced and agitated. I tried to intervene, asking what was wrong and if I could help. Dad turned on me like a rabid dog. He started screaming about how I think I'm better than everyone, how I walk around like I own the place, and how I contribute nothing to the family. He said I was a freeloader who just takes up space and eats their food. I stood there shocked. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I tried to explain that I pay for most of the household expenses, that I handle all the maintenance and repairs, that I drive him to his doctor appointments and handle his insurance paperwork. But he wouldn't listen. He just kept screaming louder. Then he said the words that changed everything. He told me I do nothing for this family and to get out of his house. He said he never wanted to see me again and that I was dead to him. My sister just stood there crying, not defending me at all. My brother appeared in the doorway, saw what was happening, and disappeared back into his room. I felt something break inside me. All the years of quietly supporting this family, all the sacrifices I'd made, all the money I'd spent, and this was how he saw me. I realized I was done trying to prove my worth to people who refused to see it. I walked upstairs, packed a bag with essentials, and came back down. Dad was still ranting in the kitchen. I grabbed my keys from the counter and looked at him one last time. I told him he got his wish and that I was leaving. I said he'd figure out real quick what I actually did for this family. I drove to my buddy's apartment across town. He was surprised to see me, but let me crash on his couch. I spent the next few days looking for my own place and trying to process what had happened. I felt angry, hurt, and weirdly relieved at the same time. Here's what I didn't tell my family before I left. I pay for the electricity, gas, water, internet, and cable. I pay for the grocery delivery service, the lawn care, and the pest control. I have all the utility accounts in my name because Dad's credit is shot from some bad decisions years ago. I also pay for his diabetes medication through my health insurance because he's been dropped from his plan. I knew exactly what was going to happen, and I'll admit, part of me wanted to see it unfold. On day 3, I got a text from my sister asking when I was coming home. I ignored it. On day 5, my brother called asking if I was okay. I told him I was fine and that I was staying with a friend. He seemed confused about why I'd left, which told me Dad hadn't even explained what happened. Day 6 brought another text from my sister, this time asking if I knew why the internet wasn't working. I didn't respond. Day 7, she texted again asking about the grocery delivery that didn't show up. Still no response from me. Then came day 8. My phone buzzed with a text from my sister that made me smile for the first time in over a week. She was panicking, asking why the power was off. Apparently, the electricity had been shut off for non-payment. The gas company had also sent a final notice, and the water pressure was getting low. I stared at the message for a few minutes, then typed back exactly what I was thinking. I told her I thought I did nothing for the family, so I figured she and Dad could handle it. Her response was immediate, a string of confused and frantic messages asking what I meant and begging me to explain. I turned off my phone and went to bed. I'd found a nice one-bedroom apartment and was moving in the next day. I was done with the drama. The next morning, I had 17 missed calls and dozens of text messages. But it was the voicemail that really got to me. It was from Dad, and he sounded different. Gone was the angry, proud man who'd screamed at me. He sounded old, tired, and scared. In the voicemail, he admitted he'd been wrong. He said he didn't realize how much I did for the family and that he was sorry for what he'd said. He begged me to come back and help them figure out the utility situation. He said the house was cold, they had no hot water, and he didn't know how to fix any of it. But then he said something that made me pause. He mentioned that Mom would be disappointed in both of us. He said she'd raised us to be a family that sticks together through hard times, and that we were both failing her memory. I sat in my new apartment, listening to his voice crack as he talked about Mom. I thought about all the times she'd mediated our fights when I was growing up. She always said family was everything, even when that family drove you crazy. But I also thought about the years of being taken for granted, of being treated like hired help instead of a son and brother. I thought about working extra hours to pay for everyone else's lives while my own savings account stayed empty. I thought about Dad's words, "You do nothing for this family." I called my sister back. She answered immediately, sounding frantic. She started apologizing before I could even speak, saying she didn't know I paid for everything and that she was sorry for not standing up for me. She said Dad was a mess and that my brother was finally starting to understand what had happened. I told her I'd help them get the utilities turned back on, but things were going to be different. I wasn't coming back home, and I wasn't going to be the invisible safety net anymore. If they wanted my help, they'd have to ask for it respectfully and contribute their fair share. The next few hours were spent on the phone with utility companies, setting up payment arrangements and getting services restored. It cost me another $800 that I didn't really have, but I couldn't let them freeze in the dark, no matter how angry I was. That evening, I drove over to the house. Dad was waiting for me in the living room, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. He stood up when I walked in, and I could see he wanted to hug me, but he wasn't sure if I'd let him. He apologized again, this time looking me in the eye. He said he'd been angry at the world since Mom died, and that he'd been taking it out on me. He admitted he knew I did more than my share, and that he'd been too proud to acknowledge it. He said he was grateful for everything I'd done, and that he didn't want to lose me. It was the most honest conversation we'd had in years. I told him I forgave him, but that I wasn't moving back home. I said I needed space to figure out who I was outside of being the family caretaker. He nodded, saying he understood. My sister and brother joined us, and we had a family meeting like we hadn't had since Mom was alive. I laid out exactly what I'd been covering financially and what needed to change. My sister agreed to take over the grocery shopping and some of the utility bills. My brother, surprisingly, said he'd been thinking about getting a job anyway and would start contributing too. Dad said he'd look into getting his own utility account set up and would apply for assistance programs he'd been too proud to consider before. He also said he'd start handling his own doctor appointments and insurance paperwork. Update 1. It's been 3 weeks since I moved out, and things are slowly getting better. Dad calls me twice a week now, not to ask for help, but just to check in. We're actually talking about things other than household problems for the first time in years. My sister got a second job and is now covering the internet and cable bills. My brother found work at a local warehouse and is paying for his own food and contributing to the electric bill. Dad qualified for some assistance programs and is managing his own affairs better than I expected. I've been going over for dinner every Sunday, and it feels different. I'm there because I want to be, not because I have to be. Dad asks about my new apartment and my work, and he actually listens to my answers. Last Sunday, he told me he was proud of me for standing up for myself. He said Mom would be proud too, and that she'd probably be laughing at how long it took all of us to figure this out. He's right. She always said the best lessons were the ones that hurt a little. Update 2. 2 months later, and I'm in a much better place. My savings account is actually growing for the first time in 3 years. I've been dating someone I met through work, and it's nice to have a life that doesn't revolve around family emergencies. The house is running smoothly without me living there. Dad has become more independent and is actually socializing with neighbors again. My sister is more responsible and seems happier having real responsibilities. My brother is talking about moving out and getting his own place next year. We still have our moments and disagreements, but they're normal family stuff now, not the toxic dynamics we'd fallen into. Dad has never again suggested that I do nothing for the family. In fact, he brags about me to his friends now, telling them about my new apartment and my work. I learned that sometimes you have to be willing to lose everything to find out what you're really worth. And sometimes the people who love you most need to see you walk away before they remember how to appreciate you. The voicemail is still saved on my phone. I listen to it sometimes when I'm having a bad day, not because I want to remember the pain, but because it reminds me that people can change and that standing up for yourself doesn't mean giving up on family. We're better now, all of us. But we're better because I was willing to leave and they were willing to let me go. Sometimes the best thing you can do for people you love is to stop enabling them and start living your own life. The revenge I thought I wanted turned into something better. It turned into respect, real relationships, and a family that actually functions. And that's worth more than any satisfaction I got from watching the lights go out.